Good evening, good morning, and namaste. Indian culture believes in Adhd Devo Bhava, meaning guest is our God. Thanks to Team ISAGA 2021 for a warm welcome. On behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya Fraternity, I feel privileged to welcome Honorable Chief Guest on the occasion, Dr. Siva Salam Tyagaraja, Dr. Sebastian Mayer, Dr. Haide Lukosh, Honorable Chancellor Sri Purushottam Das Ji Prasadi, Honorable Vice Chancellor and Conference Chairperson, Dr. Upinder Dhar, respected Coordinator, ISAGA 2021, Dr. Jagyasu Dubey, respected dignitaries, Head of Institutes and Departments of Constituent Institutions of University, delegates, colleagues, and all students who are attending the conference on digital platform. A warm welcome to Annual Conference of International Assimilation and Gaming Association. To mark the beginning of ISAGA 2021, let's invoke blessings of Goddess Saraswati by lamp lighting.
श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा शुक्लां ब्रह्मविचारसारपरमा आद्यां जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणापुस्तकधारिणीम् अभयदां जाड्यान्धकारापहां हस्ते स्फाटिकमालिकां विदधतीं पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिप्रदां शारदाम्।
Thank you, sir. We are honored by the presence of Dr. Siva Salam Tyagarajan as the chief guest. The world knows him as Tyagi, resident mad scientist at the Tyagi Group. I request Honorable Chancellor and Honorable Vice Chancellor to extend a plural welcome to Dr. Tyagi. Thank you, sir. We are also pleased to have with us Dr. Haide Lukosh, Chairperson, ISAGA Executive Board, and Associate Professor, Head of Applied Immersive Gaming Initiative, University of Canterbury, Christchurch, New Zealand. I again request Honorable Chancellor and Honorable Vice Chancellor to accord a floral welcome to Dr. Lukosh. Thank you, sir. It is indeed a great pleasure to have with us immediate past chairperson, ISAGA Executive Board, and Professor Vice Dean, KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Stockholm, Sweden, Dr. Sebastian Mayer. May I request Honorable Chancellor and Vice Chancellor to extend a floral welcome to Dr. Sebastian. Thank you, sir. ISAGA, a global community of professionals engaged in the design, development, application, and research of gaming simulations, is organizing conferences since 1970s. The event is the first ISAGA International Conference in India. To know more about the objective of organizing ISAGA 2021, may I have the pleasure of inviting Honorable Vice Chancellor and Conference Chairperson, Dr. Upinder Dhar, for his remarks.
Good morning from India to all the delegates, guests, chief guest on this occasion, Honorable Chancellor of our university, Shri Purushottam Das Ji Pasari, keynote speaker and chief guest, Dr. Sivaselam Tyagarajan, popularly known as Tyagi, current chairperson of the executive board, Dr. Hedi Lukosh, immediate past chairman of the executive board, Dr. Sebastian Major, Dr. Willie Chris, Elizabeth League, Rijo Hamada, Toshiko Kikawa, Ramesh Sharma, Jagdishwaran Manoharan, Bharat Palavali, J. Thomas Haribarian, Ivo Wenzler, Elena Dukosho, and all other friends, delegates, and my dear students. This is a very well awaited, long awaited event. In fact, we have been waiting for this for last 1 year. It had to happen in September 2020, but because of the pandemic, we had to postpone it. And now today, on this auspicious day, we are starting the 52nd annual conference of the International Simulation and Gaming Association. Dr. Sebastian Major and Dr. Willie Chris helped me in finalizing the main theme for this conference: gaming, simulation, and innovations, challenges, and opportunities. Gaming is now not a new domain. Gaming and simulation has been happening for a long time. And in training particularly, we have been using games and simulations. But what is important today is innovation. We need to keep on innovating. We need to keep on refreshing what we have been doing for decades. Product innovation refers to introduction of goods or services which are new or significantly improved with respect to their characteristics or intended uses. A process innovation is the implementation of a new or significantly improved production or delivery method. Design is an integral part of the development and implementation of product innovations. However, design changes that do not involve a significant change in a product's functional characteristics or intended uses are not product innovations, although they can be marketing innovations. Routine upgrades or regular seasonal changes are also not product innovations. A radical or disruptive innovation makes a significant impact on a market and on the economic activity of firms in that market. The innovation could, for example, change the structure of the market, create new markets, or render existing product obsolete. Incremental innovation concerns an existing product, service, process, or method whose performance has been significantly enhanced or upgraded. This can take two forms. For example, a simple product may be improved through use of higher performance components or materials. Or a complex product comprising a number of integrated technical subsystems may be improved by partial changes to one of the subsystems. Incremental innovation is the dominant form of innovation. Radical innovation is generally a complex process rather than a discrete event, and generally implies a difficult, lengthy, and risky process. Smaller firms or new market entrants can play important roles in introducing radical innovations. The diffusion of radical innovations nearly always depends on incremental improvements, refinements, and modifications. The development of complementary technologies and organizational change and social learning. The market for gaming and simulation is expanding fast, and it has a great future, provided that we innovate. Therefore, all those who design games, all those who are game administrators need to think about it and keep on innovating what we have been doing for decades. And innovation is going to make the future for gaming and simulation very bright. With these words, I once again welcome all of you to this great conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Shri Purushottam Das Ji Pasari, Honorable Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, to deliver the welcome address.
Namaskar. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Siva Selam Tyagarajan, Tyagi, Resident Scientist at the Tyagi Group, Bloomington, Indiana, United States. Honorable Dr. Sebastian Meijer, Immediate Past Chairperson, ISAGA, EB and Professor, Vice Dean, KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Stockholm, Sweden. Honorable Dr. Hede Lokosas, Chairperson, ISAGA Executive Board and Head of Applied Immersive Gaming Initiative, University of Canterbury, Christchurch, New Zealand. Dr. Upinder Dhar, Conference Chairperson and Vice Chancellor, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Honorary Secretary, Sri Kamal Naranji Bhuraria, Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Trust, all Vaishnav Committee members, coordinators of the conference, Dr. Vinod Dambailkar, Founder and CEO, Mentis, New Delhi, India, and Dr. Jigyasu Dubey, Professor at Sri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, India, all HOIs and HODs, and my dear students. I am happy to extend warm welcome to all the delegates and guests who have joined the conference on the virtual platform. Sri Vaishnav Shaikshanik एवं पारमार्थिक न्यास of Indore is a well-known charitable organization in the country, recognized for its services and activities for the social upliftment of the people of all classes and walks of life. It was 137 years back that in 1884, under the patronage of few enterprising merchants of cloth market, Indore, an educational, social and charitable trust was promulgated at Vaishnav Dharmada, which was later in the year 1934 reconstituted as the Vaishnav Sahayak Kapda Market Committee. Realizing that education is essential for rapid growth of the society and leading a happy life for an individual, the NYAS has been working relentlessly for the development of the society and the country as a whole by offering quality education through technical and professional institutions, school, health centers, and other services besides the university. Presently, 25 educational and social organizations with more than 22,000 students are functioning under the aegis of Sri Vaishnav Trust. Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya SVVV was established by Gazette notification of the state of Madhya Pradesh on 8th January 2015. It is a matter of great pleasure for us that a 5-day conference, ISAGA 2021, is being organized in our university. This event is the first ISAGA International Conference in India and will be the 52nd annual conference of ISAGA. The aim of the conference is to encourage contribution across all scientific and professional environments, international assimilation and gaming Association ISAGA is a global community of professionals engaged in the design, development, application, and research of games and simulations. The theme of the conference is very broad and gives scope to researchers to present their papers from diverse perspective of simulation and gaming. It will provide a forum for budding researchers to develop their analytic abilities, expand the horizons of knowledge, and develop a network for learning and get inspiration and encouragement from experts and senior researchers by understanding the relevance and significance of ethics in simulation and gaming while contributing to the body of knowledge. With these words, I once again welcome all of you to ISAGA 2021. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sebastian Major, immediate past chairperson, ISAGA Executive Board, and Professor, Vice Dean, KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Stockholm, Sweden, to enlighten us with his words of wisdom. Dr. Sebastian, please.
Good morning, and thank you very, very much for the welcome and also this opening. I very clearly remember when I first was introduced to Dr. Adhd at the ISAGA conference in Warsaw. It was Willy Kritz who said like, hey, we might have an opportunity in India. And that became like a very interesting thought. I've myself been in India as a visiting researcher quite often. And what I know is the enormous potential of gaming and simulation, the huge population, as well as the interest in playful types of exercises. So it was an attractive thought. We spoke about it with the other people involved. And then it became like, let's make the proposal. And I really would have hoped to physically be right now in Indore. I've never been personally in Indore myself. So that was one of the things that I was looking forward to. But let's do the online version, the next best. I'm very, very happy that this conference goes through. I'm very, very grateful to all the people that have been putting a lot of efforts into it from SVVV. So the formal part on behalf of ISAGA, I will leave to Heide as current chair, but I'm very, very grateful that this is going on. Looking forward to a very beautiful week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It gives me immense pleasure in inviting Dr. Heide Lukosch, Chairperson, ISAGA EB, and Associate Professor, Head of Applied Immersive Gaming Initiative, University of Canterbury, Christchurch, New Zealand, for her remarks.
Thank you very much, Namrata. Dear ISAGA community, dear conference organizing committee, thank you very much for this warm welcome. And a very warm welcome from me, physically from New Zealand, virtually from India. May I ask you all to first unmute and give a loud shout out to Sebastian for all his work as past chair of the ISAGA EB during all the last years. Sebastian is a driving force behind the summer schools, conferences like this, website developments, publishing processes, and in general behind maintaining our strong community. Please join me in a big thank you to Sebastian, who fortunately stays on the EB in an active role as secretary. Thank you. And of course, I wish to shout a big thank you to the conference organizing committee under the lead of Dr. Adhd to put together this year's conference. They had to do this in the most challenging and uncertain environment. Last year, we decided to postpone the conference to give us all the chance to meet in person. and experience the hospitality and beauty of India. Unfortunately, the global pandemic situation hasn't improved as much as we wanted to. And earlier this year, we had to make the difficult decision to move the conference to an online format. However, it is great to see so many long-standing and so many new faces in the virtual space that we will be able to share during this week. The hard work and commitment of the organizing committee has made this possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think the notion that play is a vital element of human culture has never been so true as in the last months. Games allow us to handle a crisis, such as the current global pandemic, on personal, but also on systemic level. Personally, they allow us to connect, like now, with loved ones, with friends, and physical playgrounds and meeting places suddenly close. They also allow us to escape from a world that for many has become quite uncertain and sometimes unbearable. But games can do so much more. They can help us understand crises and complex situations better, develop alternative solutions to them, and prepare us for such situations. Our community has shown its strong resilience in developing creative ways of game design, facilitation, and evaluation. I'm looking forward to experiencing many examples of our work during this year's conference. In the name of the ISAGA EB, I wish us all a very constructive exchange during the coming days to listen to each other, learn from each other, meet old and make new friends, and have a lot of fun at the 52nd ISAGA conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Release of webinar series booklet and souvenir is a movement of pride for organizers in any conference. It is the result of hard work of contributors and, of course, the team members. May I request the chief guest on the occasion, Dr. Tyagi, to release the webinar series booklet, Pratiti. Thank you, sir. I once again request Dr. Tyagi to release the conference souvenir, Parishishta. Thank you, sir. It is a matter of proud privilege that ISAGA 2021 witnessed the gracious presence of Dr. Tyagi, an internationally renowned personality, as chief guest. I invite conference coordinator, Dr. Jigyasu Dubey, for introduction and citation of chief guest.
Thank you, Namrata ma'am. I feel honored and privileged to read the citation of Dr. Sivasilan Tyagarajan, chief guest of today's program. I quote, Dr. Sivasilan Tyagarajan is the resident med scientist at the Tyagi Group, an organization with the mission of helping people improve their performance effectively and enjoyably. Tyagi's long-term clients include AT&T, Arthur Andersen, Bank of Montreal, Cadence Design Systems, Chevron, IBM, Intel, Intelsat, United Airlines, and Liberty Mutual. On a short-term basis, Tyagi has worked with more than 50 different organizations in high-tech, financial services, and management consulting areas. For these clients, Tyagi has consulted and conducted training in such areas as right sizing, diversity, creativity, teamwork, customer satisfaction, human performance technology, and organizational behavior learning. Tyagi has published 40 books, 120 games and simulations, and more than 200 articles. He wrote the definitive chapters on simulations and games for ISPIS Handbook and Human Performance Technology, ASTDS Training and Development Handbook, and the American Management Association's Human Resources Management and Development Handbook. Tyagi currently writes a monthly online newsletter, Tyagi Game Letter. This newsletter, now in its 5th year, features Tyagi's training, games, and other creative interventions that deliver results quickly and effectively. He served as the editor of NSPI Journal and Performance and Improvement for more than 10 years. He currently edits the simulation game section in Sage Publications Journal, Simulation and Gaming. He is also a contributing editor of the monthly journal Educational Technology. Tyagi has made hundreds of presentations and keynote speeches at professional conferences. At ISPI, Tyagi holds the records for making the most presentations, conducting the most pre-conference workshops, and being invited to make the most in-core presentation. Tyagi is also a regular presenter at Lakewood's training conferences and the annual conferences of American Society for Training and Development ASTD and North American Simulation and Gaming Association NISAGA. Tyagi has been the president of the North American Simulation and Gaming Association, International Society for Performance Improvement ISPI, and Association for Special Education Technology ASET. He has received 17 different awards and presidential citations from ISPI, including the Society's highest award, Honorary Life Member. He also received an Honorary Life Member Award from NISAGA, as well as its highest award, I. Phil Reynolds Award. Internationally recognized as an expert in multinational collaboration and active learning in organizations, Tyagi has lived in 3 different countries and has consulted in 21 others. Unquote. Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya Indore, India is privileged to present this citation to Dr. Sivasilan Tyagarajan Tyagi for gracing ISAGA 2021 as chief guest and keynote speaker on September 6, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was just a snapshot of his achievements and accolades. Dr. Tyagi and his achievements stand taller than all his laurels. May I now invite Honorable Chancellor Shri Purushottam Das Ji Pasari and Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Upinder Dutt to present the citation to Dr. Tyagi. Thank you, sir. It is indeed our privilege to be a part of this presentation ceremony. The moment has come, and now I am pleased to invite Dr. Tyagi for the keynote address.
Thank you, Namrata. Thank you very much. You've been doing everything so wonderfully so far. And hopefully you probably press a button and the people will think I'm speaking. Actually, what you will be hearing is just a recording prepared by Namrata. So that will be much more reliable. And thank you, Dr. Dubey, for your introduction. And thank you, the Honorable Chairman, Shri Pasari, for inviting us to your wonderful virtual location. I always wanted to be in indoor, and now I can pretend to be indoor. And special thanks to Dr. Upender Radar for organizing all of those things and inviting me. When I was 7 years old, I was the youngest child in my family, and I was given the task of lighting the holy lamp on Saraswati Puja. And I had that job only for 1 year because in lighting the lamp, I had burned all of the tablecloth and almost burned the picture of Saraswati on a white lotus. So I was fired from that job, and I'm so glad we were able to do it virtually. And I asked one of my wonderful, knowledgeable friends that I have been made the chief guest for a very important conference. What does the chief guest mean? And he, being extremely wise, said, a chief guest is a title given to somebody who is senile and old. And somebody who has outlived his usefulness is usually made a chief guest. So I appreciate your kindness in making me the chief guest. And so time now is 10:04, which is good. That gives me perfect time to get started. And folks, I have approximately 41 minutes and 20 seconds. And one of the major promises I made myself is that if I believe in games and simulations and training activities, I should stop boring people with the lengthy lectures. So I'm going to make you do all the hard work. If you are ready, I will begin with my colleague, Dr. Dubey, to project the first slide on the screen. Folks, here is the good news. I have only 3 slides, so you don't have to worry. And this slide goes with my topic, which is the secrets of effective and engaging facilitation. Here are the 3 different secrets. I don't want to tell you which is the most important secret, but this is what I want for you to do. Could you open your speaker, or could you communicate with me telepathically of these 3 secrets? Which one would you like for me to elaborate? Which one do you think is irritating? Which one do you think you would like to attack me for saying that? So which of these 3 would you like for me to elaborate? And if I don't hear from you, I'll be picking your brain and communicating telepathically. Somebody, anybody? Good. Okay, I have heard from 13 people. Fortunately, I don't believe, I'm not superstitious, but so I don't worry. Most people wanted me to talk about the secret number 1, rapidly get started with your activity. When I was younger, I used to spend a long time explaining the rules of the game and talking about them and telling these are the rules, these are exceptions to the rules, this is what we should be doing. And I spent a lot of time, so much time that it turned out my explanation and my introduction to the game or the activity took more time than the activity itself. I decided that's a sign of stupidity on my part. So I now have a rule which I impose on myself, which is called the 4-minute rule. If you're doing an activity and if your participants are not into the activity within 4 minutes after you begin, then you're wasting the participants' time and your time. So here is a dangerous way for you to live. Next time you want to conduct an activity, just jumpstart that activity. Jump into it. Don't waste your time. That is the selected item on slide number 1. And if Dubé is nice, it will move us to slide number 2. If not, nothing will happen. Oh, good. Here is slide number 2. 3 more secrets. Take a look at them and see if they make sense to you. If they are self-contained, of these 3 things. Okay. People have now found the chat area, or maybe I found the chat area. A lot of people have selected item number 4. These folks are obviously very disruptive, rowdy people who are trying to give me a hard time. When I conduct train the facilitator workshop, one of the questions most people ask me, how do we handle disruptive behaviors from our participants? I tell them, and I'm going to tell you, there is no such thing as disruptive behavior. It is all feedback. Don't think of it as a disruptive behavior. Think of it as a piece of feedback. If somebody starts yelling from his seat, that is just a subtle indication that you as a facilitator is boring him to disruptive behavior. So no such thing as disruptive behavior. One interesting thing, after any activity I conduct, 3 months later, I call a random set of people and ask them what was the most memorable thing that happened in the activity. You know what? The most memorable thing they remember was based on some disruptive behavior on the part of a participant. They remember how I handled that disruptive behavior. They also remember how the other participants handled that disruption. And they also remember what they learned from the disruptive behavior. So much so, since people remember disruption more than non-disruptive type of a thing, and by the way, that fits with the theme of our conference, I actually hire people before this session, pay them 2,000 rupees. I used to pay 20 rupees. Inflation has caught up with me. I pay them 2,000 rupees and say, can you do something rowdy, something nasty, something disruptive in the middle of my session? And that has been very, very valuable. So let's go looking for disruption among our participants, because that's where real learning happens, especially to you. To me, getting people disrupt is an on-the-job learning exercise. And Dr. Dubey, that brings me to the next slide. Good. Let us see. Take time to look at this. My studies indicate there seems to be a primacy effect. Most people seem to type the first number in the slide. Fortunately, Elizabeth wants number 9. So I'm ignoring everybody else because I think to me, Elizabeth is the most representative member of the ISAGA EB. Whatever Elizabeth wants, I do it immediately. Thank you, Elizabeth. So at the end of any activity, as a part of the debriefing discussion, here is what I do. I tell people what are some of the most useful things, successful things that happened. And when they respond to that question, I say, let's celebrate that success. You know how that useful and successful thing happened? Because you made it happen. You are the responsible people. One of the major principles of ISAGA, major principles of simulation and gaming is you make the game a success. If it is success, that is due to you. And let us take a few seconds, few minutes to think of what made it successful. One of the reasons it became successful is I kept my mouth closed. Another reason it made today's session successful is you participated actively. So here is what I would like for you to do. Let's celebrate this success, and whatever you do in your classroom, in your management sessions, make sure you let the other people talk more than you talk, because our principle is whoever talks in the classroom or in the office or in the organization is the person who is learning the most. Something for you to remember. And to me, to quote Rudyard Kipling, to me, there is no such thing as a failure. There is no such thing as a success, especially when you're doing activity-based learning. Both success and failure are imposters. You learn. A failure is a failure only if you fail to learn from it. Failures are the best way to learn. Anytime you fail, you should be happy because you can learn something from the failure. So one of the things I celebrate, and I make sure I emphasize this in my debriefing, is what were failures today, and what did we learn from these failures? How can we stop this failure to coming back? Okay, so that is my first 3 slides. I'm going to give Dr. Dubey a difficult task. Can you go back to slide number 1? Don't go to the next slide, but go back to slide 1. Let us see if we can press. Good. Folks, here is slide number 1. Many people are irritated, but I don't spend too much time preparing. You know why? The more time you spend in preparing and rehearsing, the more rigid, the more stiff you become. If you prepare for a long time, if you rehearse what you're doing, if you look at your props and everything, you sound like a robot. You sound like a university professor. There is no life left in what you're doing. So don't spend too much time in rehearsal and preparation. And the other one, item number 3, people ask me, should your activities be competitive or cooperative? Should your activities be at a fast pace or at a slow pace? Should your activities be presented in a playful manner or in a serious manner? When they ask me questions like this, my answer is simple: yes. Anything you do should be cooperative and competitive, should be playful and serious, should be fast and reflective and slow. So the secret for you to be a good facilitator is for you to suffer from the multiple personality syndrome. You got to be total schizophrenic. Dr. Dubey, next slide, please. Good. Everything depends on debriefing. I keep telling people the experiential activity is just an excuse for you to conduct the debriefing. People learn from debriefing, not from the activity. And I've been doing this propaganda for a long time. Now I got to cool people down and don't debrief everything. There are some things like teaching people Kirchhoff's law or teaching people how to solve a differential equation. They don't need debriefing. You're teaching the skill. And Dr. Dubey, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Keep repeating the same activity. People say, if you repeat the same game, the same activity, won't your students be bored? Will they not have a breakdown? Folks, here is the secret. The secret of a good game is you can play it hundreds of times. I am an obsessive Scrabble player. And every morning I get up and go online to my international group of Scrabble players and we play Scrabble. I don't say, I will not play Scrabble today because I played it previously, yesterday. No, the more frequently you play Scrabble, the more obsessive you get to playing Scrabble. So keep repeating the same game. I used to play cricket when I was young, and I keep on playing cricket. I even play cricket because that is one thing that links Elizabeth and me. I don't know if she plays cricket. I don't know if she watches cricket. I I am a cricket player, cricket person. So keep on repeating the game because here is the other secret of facilitation. People have to know how to play the game before they can play from your game. Knowing how to play the game is an important first step in knowing from the game. Now, Dr. Dubey, we can go to the 4th slide. Hey, the 4th slide has disappeared. Keep going. Good. Folks, tyagi.net/share-st/Tyagi keynote PDF. If you click on this, you get to download a copy of one of my books. So this, I don't see the book, but this is a 54 long book, and that book contains everything I talked about. So if you don't remember, and if you cannot understand my Australian accent, don't worry. You can look at the book and you can do all of the things I was talking about. That gives me more time to get attacked by you. So, question and answer time, folks. And I'm going to shut up and talk to you. If you ask me a question or make a comment or make a sarcastic remark, if you don't do any of these things, I'm going to ask Namrata to give me some other canned thing. Okay, anybody got a question? And can you ask your question by opening your mic and talking to me? So I will get the feeling, I will get the delusion that there are human beings on the other side of the screen.
Are there any questions from the panelist side?
Well, I have a question. Tyagi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you wonderfully, Marcus.
Yeah, your wonderful 4-minute rule, would that apply also to more complex simulation games?
Yes, especially to more complex simulation games. 2 months ago, I did a war game at Fort Benning, Georgia, and they brought me a 300-page rules of the game. And I said, this is stupid. By the time I finished going through the rules, they will all get killed. So I said, folks, here are 2 teams. This is the green team. This is the red team. Here is the rule book. You don't have to read it now, but get started. The red team and the green team are fighting against each other. This is a war game. You know how to do it intuitively. Go do it. And I got them started and they had a ball. I did not spend the usual going through 350 pages of what are the rules and what we should do. And so, Marcus, don't trust me, keep attacking me. You got any additional skeptical remarks and sarcastic comments you want to make?
No, it's wonderful. No additional comments. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, sir.
One question is from Professor Miko Nakamura. I think I need to spend quite a long time to prepare for gaming session. How can you shorten the preparation time?
Okay, good question. If you prepare a long time, you're not playing a game. You're torturing your participants. The secret of game, by definition, a game is a volitional activity. And the best way to learn how to facilitate a game is look at children. Look at the way children play a game. They don't read the rules of the game printed in small print on the back of the box lid. They just jump in and start playing the game. If something fails miserably, they just make up their own rules. So give the minimum set of rules. Everything has a core set of rules, 2 or 3 rules at the most, that takes the players to the magic circle. That is what happens. If you're spending too much time preparing, rehearsing, getting ready. The secret is to say, to hell with it. I'm going to live dangerously. And if it fails miserably, I'm going to blame it on Tyagi. And I'm going to tell him he was introduced to me as a chief guest. And I was misled. I trusted the people who said he's the chief guest and believed everything he said. And the thing he said, which is a stupid thing, is don't prepare, don't spend too much time. Thank you. That was a wonderful question.
Dr. Amy, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Thank you so much, Tyagi, for sharing your secrets. I have one question. Usually, it is said that for any game to successfully get implemented, play testing is very important. But I just wanted to know your viewpoint on like
Wonderful.
for how long one has to play test a game so that they are very confident that now we can put it live or we can try and implement it in one of these sessions.
So today I played a game of giving you a set of 3 rules and having you decide. So got you interactive, got you thinking. You know how much time I spent in playtesting that game? 0 time. Was it a stupid game? Was it a failure? Did it get your attention? Did you have you worried? No. Every time you play a game, you're playtesting. Secret number 82. Play testing happens every time you play a game. If somebody says, hey, I have a game, this is ready to go, I have play tested it, it will work perfectly, you're suffering from a delusion. No game is ever completely, comprehensively play tested. If you say yourself, this is the final version of the game, God will punish you. You know what Saraswati said? The things I know are this much, and the things I don't know is as wide as the ocean. That, by the way, is a Tamil hymn about Saraswati. Whether you believe in it or not, this is what I believe. If you think you got the final version of a game ready to go, you are suffering from delusion.
Thank you.
By the way, my approach to life is to irritate everybody, make nonsensical statements, and hopefully you will agree with 7% of everything you say. I say. Okay, now, where is my Thambi?
So one more question is from Lavish Sheikh. Sir,
Okay.
if we get continuous failure in place of success, then how to deal with it? As you say, we should celebrate success and failure both.
Let me tell you a very arrogant statement. I'm older than all of you. By the way, I'm probably as old as all your ages added together. I'm 92 years old. And I can honestly say I have never failed in my life. Not because I'm arrogant, but in great humility, I'm in a state of denial. Did I fail today? Maybe I did. Whether I define it as a failure or a success, it doesn't really matter. You know, my greatest success was failing my BSc examination. My major was math, physics, and chemistry. Every time I say that, I hear heavenly music in the background. Did you all hear that? And nice telephone-like sound. That is just to prove it. So, Vinod, since you're my Thambi and you're not afraid to talk, can you share with me a major success in your, a major failure in your life? What is the worst failure you ever had? Go ahead.
Okay, that's going to take some doing because
No, make it up.
not exact. Okay, I would like to quote you. I have never failed in life. I'm there about 99% of the time. I've failed in about 1 or 2% of my time, but every time I failed, it was good to look back upon and look upon it as a message to tell me how to do things better. I failed in writing well, in speaking well, in multiplying well, and presenting well, and so on. So there are many.
Here is my scientific report. I'm a psychometrician, and everything I have read written by you, every time I heard to your presentation, they are brilliant. They are wonderful. If I were to conduct another ISAGA conference, you know what? I will make you the chief guest, and you deserve it. And you probably became a good writer and a good speaker because you went through so many delusions of you failing. The end.
Oh, that's huge. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Anna.
You're very welcome, Thambi. See, he speaks Swahili. Last question. This better be a not too good question. Okay, good. Were you going to ask a question or you just scratching your face? Okay.
May I ask a question?
Please do.
I think we all need some kind of guidance on how to use failure or a mistake or a weakness, because despite the fact that we keep saying lots of things about our failures and how to use them, probably we're waiting for directions, guidance, and so on. Could you tell us something, maybe 2, 3 things?
Yep. Let me say, when I was young, every time I designed and played a game, it failed miserably. Then I asked myself, who says it failed? I'm saying it failed. That is a stupid analysis on my part. I'm going to tell myself it was a great success. And I'm going to say which things I did, which I want to redo, modify, change next time I do the game, so it will be much better. This is a successful game, but I want it to be as successful as games designed and delivered by Mantis. So that is one thing I ask myself, what can you do in order to make it better? That simple question is enough. And which brings us to the, so you want other piece of advice on how to handle?
Can I ask a question, sir?
Yes.
Yes. So I had a question, like when we run simulations, is it good to have debriefing after the simulation is over, or should we have a midway reflection session too when they get to reflect?
Wonderful. Great question. When should you debrief a simulation? Are you ready? You should pre-brief a simulation. In other words, you should debrief the simulation before you begin. You should debrief the simulation after you have concluded it and ask people, what did you learn? What would you do? How would you change your life? And you should debrief in the middle of the simulation and ask people what went very well so far and what do you want to learn from the rest of the simulation. So let me see. Hey, I'm getting blinded. How do you say your name?
Himani.
Himali, wonderful name. Himali, there are 3 times you can do debriefing: before, during, or after a simulation game. You cannot debrief anytime else. So remember this, you can do it before, during, and after. That is the secret of debriefing.
So how do you do before, during and after? I can still understand, but what do you do in the before?
Good. Tell me this topic of a simulation you are going to conduct.
Okay, on leadership skills. It's something about leadership.
By the way, there is an ancient Tamil saying, those who can do it. Those who cannot become leaders. Those who cannot even become leaders start designing simulation games on leadership. Ancient Tamil proverb. Having said that, leadership. Okay, good. Hello, everybody. Today's session is on leadership. I'm going to do a simulation game on leadership. You all know what leadership is. You have been leaders. You have been subjected to leaders. And tell me, what do you think is going to be the most important principle you will learn from playing my leadership simulation? And give me an answer. What do you think your participants will say?
How to handle different kinds of team members.
Wonderful. That is an important leadership skill and principle, how to handle different types of team members. But there is a much more important principle I'm going to teach you in my simulation game. Who can guess what is the other principle you're going to learn, which is more important than handling different? So you go torturing them a couple of rounds like this, and then you tell them, hey, I was just making this up, but you gave me valuable insight. Remember the principles you wanted to learn. At the end, I'm going to ask you, did you learn how to handle different types of participants in the simulation you were playing? And we will try to see if we can shape the simulation to meet your expectations. So that's how I do it before. By the way, Himali, all you need to do is tell yourself, I can do anything I want. Good. Anybody else want to attack me? Anybody from Malaysia?
Well, thank you.
Can you ask me a question?
Yeah, there's only one in Malaysia right now. Okay.
No, you're
So,
unique.
well, as usual, Tyagi, you have just messed up a lot of our brains with that 4-minute rule. But I somehow knew.
4 minutes are up.
Okay, fine. Tyagi, can I just ask? Okay, because I echo some of the views of some of them here, where the simulations are complex, but you have posed a very good challenge here. Are you suggesting that the gameplay itself can be broken into 2 parts? One of the play is actually to get familiar with the game, as what you usually say, learn the game, and then learn from the game. So are you saying that learn the game should not be instruction, but rather than an experiential thing that they go through with.
Jagdish, I'm saying the gameplay can be divided into 18 different parts. Just give the one or two critical important rules to get the game moving, and add more rules, more modifications, more expectations as you go through the game. You don't have to tell all of the rules for all of the things which are related to the game. So leadership training, you tell them this game is about leadership, and each one of you will have an opportunity to play the role of a leader. You ready? Good. Here is what I'm going to do. Hello, Kavita, you're the leader of this particular group. Your job is to have them strategically plan for the next ISAGA conference. Go, do it. And the Kavita waits. And I tell people I need to put rule number 2. Okay, Kavita, if you don't know what to do, you get to talk to 3 other people. And so you make up the rules as you go along. If you have a single set of rules, you're doomed to fail. You should have alternate rules for doing anything and everything. And Jagadishwaran, I know I'm just confusing it all the more. So come up with 18 different sets of rules before you run your simulation. Okay, folks.
Thank you.
I'm going to get you, hey, it is 10:44 exactly. I'm going to get you to the most important part of this session. You are going to hear my Thambi, Dr. Vinod Dambalkar. It's all yours. Thank you all very much for your patience, for your tolerance, for your listening to me. Vinod, it's yours.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing 9 secrets. The last secret, celebrate success and failure, is really very encouraging. I'm certain that all of us present over here would be greatly benefited by your deliberations. May I now invite Dr. Vinod Dumlekar, founder and CEO Mantis New Delhi, to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Namrata. Greetings. On behalf of the organizers of the 52nd Annual Conference of the International Simulation and Gaming Association, whom you know as ISAGA, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, the University, Indore, India, and on my own behalf, I wish to express our gratitude to individuals and organizations who contributed to the conference ISAGA 2021. ISAGA 2021 has made a wonderful start. Our 5-day journey has just begun. Our thanks are due to every one of you in one way or another. My first thanks are due to Sri Purushottam Das Ji Kasari, Chancellor of the University, for hosting ISAGA 2021 to the University. We shall always remember his overarching presence and quiet support for ISAGA 2021. My next thanks are to the conference chairperson, Dr. Upinder Garg, whom you all know as Vice Chancellor of the University, for his leadership and guidance in organizing this conference. He has led from the front and has always been ready to solve the smallest of problems, despite his onerous duties to the university. I have never failed in life. Disruption. Let others talk. Start quickly. Failure. Spontaneously. Frequently. And so on. We've had a wonderful keynote address today, and that keynote address addressed so many points in so many diverse directions. and probably we could have learned this from maybe 20 other sessions. My thanks are to Dr. Tyagi, who's always been an inspiration to us in the world of simulations in games and training. We are grateful for his role as the chief guest and keynote speaker today, and especially for his keynote address and comments that he has made today. We thank ISAGA for trusting us to conduct the conference at the university in India. ISAGA 2021 is the first international conference in India of the special ISAGA. Our thanks are due to ISAGA office bearers, especially Sebas and Heidi, the past and present chairs of the executive board of ISAGA respectively, for their presence and suggestions at the meetings of the organizing committee of the ISAGA 2021. These meetings made it possible for us to make this conference already a wonderful success. We had an interesting and well-attended series of 28 webinars from October 2020 to August 2021 as a prelude to the conference. The participants gained from insightful aspects of simulation and gaming, and the series became a sound foundation for ISAGA 2021. We thank the webinar speakers for their diverse perspectives and the attending participants for their vigorous participation. At ISAGA 2021, we received more than 70 papers, workshops, and posters to inform and engage you. We are grateful to the authors and the facilitators for these contributions. We also thank the expert reviewers of these contributions for their scrutiny and recommendations, because they enhance the quality of the papers that will be presented at this conference. Our best wishes to you all at ISAGA 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request all present over here, please rise in the honor of National Anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Bharat Mata ki Jai. With this, we come to the close of the inaugural session. And after a comfort break of 5 minutes, I invite all of you to join us for the next session with the same link. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for the lovely session.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Dubey. Thank you for running
My
this
pleasure, sir.
brilliantly.
Thank you very much, Tyagi ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you, Tyagi. Fun as
Thank you.
usual.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyagi. See you then.
See you.
Okay.
ไม่พูดหรออ่ะ
Dr. Natapong, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Are your colleagues here? Dr. Pongchai? The others are
Yes.
here. I hope they're logged on. Okay, thank you.
Is it clear?
Yeah, I can see Dr. Nasrun. Hi. Dr. Pongchai, good morning. Dr. Panicha is here. Okay. Madam Rani, could you please name the people in which order you will call them so that they can get ready?
Yes, sir. Just a second.
First of all, it will be Dr. Dar who will start his opening remarks.
Yes, sir. After that, Dr. Nathapong, then Dr. Natsuran, then Ms. Panida, then Dr. Panicha, then Dr. Pongcha, and then Dr. Vinod Amlekar, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Vinod.
Hi.
Hi, I have said I can read David's message for song 3 if you want to put that in the program.
Dr. Dar?
Yeah. You have a message from David? Or you want to speak of your own?
No, I have David's message. He has sent several of us a one-page message that he would like to read.
Yeah, MC, this Rani Singh will call your name at that time. You can read out David's message.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Rani. I'll watch for your signal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, should we start, Vinod?
Yes, we are on time.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Rani, you have to say anything?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. With love and fond memory, this session of 30 minutes is on the remembrance of late Dr. Songshri. Dr. Songshri passed away on 24th April 2021. She was the co-chair of ISAGA 2018 at Thailand. She was the founder of THAISAN, Thailand Simulation and Gaming Association. She was a vigorous organizer of annual conferences since 2009 and a very enthusiastic votary of simulation and gaming for over a decade. Her contribution in the field of gaming and simulation is exceptional. In this session, we have with us eminent scholars who are closely associated with Dr. Songshri. They will be sharing their good memories with Dr. Songshri. I would request to all the speakers, please stick to the time limit provided. But before that, I would like to invite ISAGA Conference Chairperson, Dr. Upinder Dhar, Vice Chancellor, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, to say a few words. Over to you, sir.
This is a very special session that has been organized during ISAGA 2021. It is always good to remember the people who have contributed to this world. People come, people go, but the work remains and work needs to be remembered so that everybody gets inspired to contribute further. Though I have never met Dr. Songsri, but I have heard from my friends and all those who knew her personally about her contribution and dedication to simulation in gaming. She has very specifically contributed to the development and popularization of simulation in gaming in Thailand. I pay my respects to her and wish peace to the departed soul. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Dr. David Krukel had to join us for the session, but due to some unavoidable reason, he couldn't join. He has nominated Dr. Elizabeth on his behalf. I request her to read the statement sent by Dr. David. Over to you.
Thank you. I'll read this for David Krukel, who was a very close friend of Ajahn Songsri. She was a major force in education and in simulation gaming in Thailand, a professor at one of the top 2 state universities, Mahidol, and professor and advisor at one of the top private universities, Thonburi. Songsri will be remembered by the ISAGA community for her key role in the development of the Thailand Simulation and Gaming Association. David recalls that it was in 2007 he sent out an email to teachers in Thailand outlining the idea of setting up a professional association. Several replied, including Ajahn Songsri. So she and David met over tea in a small cafe near the National Library, discussed the idea, the reasons for an association, its goals, members, and other things. He felt very comfortable with Ajahn Songsri and felt that he could put his trust in her. In 2008, a number of people, Thai and foreigner, had their first meeting in Thailand. Ajahn Songsri and her colleagues agreed to take on the heavy task of setting up the association, and a constitution was later registered with the Thai authorities. In 2009, Ajahn Songsri and her colleagues organised the first Thai Sim conference in Thonburi University, and the second International Thai Sim conference was held in Trang, southern Thailand, a place to which David and Songsri returned many times to run workshops for the teachers. From then on, international Thai Sim conferences were held annually and were a draw card for gamers from around the world, in particular their partners in ISAGA. In July 2018, Ajahn Songsri and her colleagues organised the 49th ISAGA conference at Mahidol Salaya campus in Thailand, which would have been the 10th Thai Sim conference, and she organised an ISAGA summer school. This has all been a magnificent achievement on the part of Songsri and all of her colleagues. Each Thai Sim conference was a wonderful event full of charm, warmth, delight, and good sessions, largely due to Songsri's flair for weaving together Thai culture, her natural warmth, her colleagues, friends, and students. Each conference had its own magic mix, but all with the warm, relaxing atmosphere that was decidedly Thai Sim and Songsri. She was a prolific writer, publishing 50 articles and giving 70 presentations, most internationally. Like all good professors, she placed her students in her publications, often promoting them to lead author. She started the Thai Sim Journal and helped as editor of the section Association News and Notes in the journal Simulation and Gaming. In this short overview, I've only scratched the surface of the huge accomplishment of the immensely rich experience and the quiet generosity of a Thai Sim founder and a well-loved ISAGA member. Each of us will remember her in different ways, but also for her enduring smile, her gentle touch, and her quiet, reassuring character. It has been and always will be difficult to do justice to such a wonderful and inspiring person, and for all those for whom she was a close friend and mentor. At a certain time, words cannot truly express our inner feelings. There is a mixture of pain for such loss, gratitude for the privilege of knowing, and maybe for even having been close to Aj Songsri. I ask each and every one of you to keep Aj Songsri in your hearts. Message from David Crookall ends.
Thank you. Now, I would request Dr. Nathapong, representative of Thyssen President, Dean, Faculty of Liberal Art, Mahidol University, to share his experience with Dr. Songsri.
Thank you very much. It is with the deepest sorrow and our tragic loss of a great teacher, Professor Songsri Soranasathaporn, who was a caring and beloved person. Professor Songsri was always loved and respected by her students as well as her colleagues. Those who have learned from or worked with her would certainly be able a sense of her genuine consideration and thoughtfulness towards everyone around her. Professor Songsri is the founder of the Thai Simulation and Gaming Association, or Thai Sim, in which she invited her students and friends in the related academia to be part of the association. With all the love and respect towards her, the Thai Sim was successfully established. And in 2010, she was the one who officially registered the association for it to serve as a facilitator where its members could discuss and engage in conversation and academic activities, as well as for the association to advance the world of education and research by employing the gaming simulation as a material in various degree, field of study. She was a pioneer who initiated the Thai Sim national and international academic conferences in 2009. The conferences, both at national and international levels, have been served as a platform for both Thai and non-Thai nationals to discuss and exchange expertise and experiences in a friendly and constructive atmosphere. In 2015, the Thai Sim was successfully accepted as a member of the International Simulation and Gaming Association, or ISAGA, thanks to her dedication and effort. Having been affiliated with the ISAGA, the Thai Sim has gained her reputation at an international level and thus allow her to host the 49th ISAGA in Thailand in 2018 at the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Mahidol University. The conference was very successful as it received numerous compliments for such good host of the conference. This again was made possible because of Professor Songsri's diligence and dedication. We really owe her great contribution always. With the passing of Professor Songsri, Thai Sim has experienced the greatest loss. Lamenting her passing and persisting to the pursuit of the advancement in the world of education, which now has become her inheritance, is what we could maintain. Her dedication and contributions will unchangingly be honored and valued for a lifetime of us, with deepest sympathy from all of us from Thai Simulation and Gaming Association. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, I would request Dr. Natsaran, Treasurer of Thyssen and Vice President at Bangkok Business College, to share his thought about Dr. Songsri. Dr. Natsaran, you have 4 to 5 minute time for the same.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Good morning, the President and the committees of the Indian Simulation and Gaming Association, the President and the committees of ISAGA, the conference chairperson, chief guests, keynote speakers, distinguished guests, and all participants. On behalf of the committees of Thai Sim, I would like to pay tribute to Dr. Songsri Soranasathaporn, the Secretary of Thai Sim, who passed away of sickness in the afternoon of the 24th April this year. With her brave heart and the cooperation of her 4 close friends, who have finished PhD from the same university, Illinois State University in the United States of America, she decided to establish Thai Sim. In the year 2008, she served Thai Sim as the precious and efficient secretary with a huge task to do. Actually, her career was at the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Mahidol University in Thailand. She worked as the director of the PhD program in Applied Linguistics. She was an assistant dean of research and international affairs, and she as well was the editor-in-chief of the Liberal Arts Journal. Although she had a lot of work to do at her university, she always devoted her time to serve for the work of ThaiSim more than 10 years ago. Knowing her and working with her more than 20 years, it was obvious that she was very diligent, patient, disciplined, and courageous. In addition, she was a caring person. She was always ready to help her students, her friends, and everyone surrounded. We were all very lucky to have had her in our lives, and as much as she will be missed by us all, she will remain with us. She will remain with us all every day, as long as we can remember. We love and miss you, Dr. Songsi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I would request Ms. Panida, web programmer at Faculty of Liberal Arts, Mahidol University, close associate of Dr. Songshri in many events like ThaiSim Annual Conference and 49th ISAGA in 2018, to say few words about Dr. Songshri. You have 2 to 3 minute time for the same.
Thank you. Associate Professor Dr. Sosi Saranasathaporn was the real expert in various fields like English teaching and learning, and especially in using games in helping promote language learning. Professor Sosi significantly specialized in other fields as well. I, as a practitioner and learner from Professor Sosi, have learned and gained a lot of more than I can say here in words. I am very fortunate to be with her because she not only gave me body of knowledge, she also provided me the best ways to live and secure my life. I can say that she was actually my true mom, who had always given me all things she had. She had never left things behind me. Professor Songsi was such a truly kind and merciful teacher. I can say she was a true teacher, one whoever touches her can witness her kindness and generosity she had always given to all around her. She always taught me how to behave and work with others around. Infinite chances were always given by her, especially her friends, colleagues, students, and acquaintances as well. Everyone knows this. Although she had gone, she still sits in our heart and will forever be like this. I wholeheartedly love her. May she rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I would request Dr. Panicha, PhD in Applied Linguistics and lecturer at Faculty of Liberal Arts, Mahidol University, one of the key organizers of 49th ISAGA and ThaiSim conferences in 2018, to say a few words about Dr. Songshri. You have 2 to 3 minute time for the same.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a speaker of the remembrance of Associate Professor Dr. Songsi Saranasathaporn. She was my advisor since I studied master degree until doctoral study. I would say that she provided me and other students invaluable guidance, not only the research study, but also my life and my career path. She always went above and beyond the advisor call of duty. The way she inspired me has touched me even more. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have been able to work with such an encouraging, insightful, and enthusiastic advisor since I have known her. She was the most amazing person and guiding light in my life. I would confidently assert that I would not have made it far without her support. I would like to express the deepest appreciation and gratitude to her, even though she is not here today. I believe that she will be watching from the above. I know that she loves ISAGA. She loves Thai Sim organization very much, and I love her, my dearest and greatest teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I would request Dr. Pong Chai, lecturer at the Department of Biology, Faculty of Science, Chulalongkorn University, a very close associate of Dr. Songshri in many Thai Sim annual conferences and 49th ISAGA in 2018. I request him to share her thought with Dr. Songshri.
Yes, thank you very much. So, to say good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so thank you very much for organizing committee to conduct this session for Dr. Songsi Saranasathaporn. So in my memories, so Dr. Songsi is very kind and very, very active. So I started working with her since the establishment of Thai Sim, around 2009, 2010. So at that time, so I was the last year of the PhD studies. So I usually work in the rural areas. But she invited me to help Thai Sim work. So she gave me the important task to work on the program book and proceedings for the National Annual Conference. Yeah, and also the international conference sometimes. So many conference. So she trusts me to do these jobs. So I try to do my best on that. So every time when I met her, so she usually give the supportive message, about the role of Thai Sim associations. So the association aim, to improve the quality of studies, the student learning using the gaming and simulations. And she said that this task they need many people to help. So I am the one that try to support and contribute to the association, and also because of her, so I try to work on that. So I learned a lot, from her, especially in the field of using gaming and simulations, because my background is biologist, so I have very, very limited knowledge about how to teach students. So Chan Song Si is very kind to teach me. So in many aspects. So when we have free time, so she tried to teach me on how to teach students in the big class, how to engage the students in the games, or how to prepare good pre and post tests, even how to evaluate the student understanding. She focused more on this. It's very important for students to learn. So I learned a lot that many things from her. So say my success in teaching today is come from her support. So she's the role model for many students and colleagues too. So the latest event that I joined is ISAGA 2018. So it's conducted at Mahidol University, Saraya campus in Nakhon Pathom province. So she's very well organized and managed several problems. So we try to prepare the conference, and many support from Hamada Sensei and even Dr. Vinod. But Dr. Songsi was the one who tried to facilitate or manage the emerged problems. So everything is smooth at the end. Yeah, so she has very positive thinking. So when we have the problems, so she usually said that the problem is for us to solve, nothing difficult, but we have to know how to fix it. Yeah, so I learned a lot from her, and even the last minutes, let's say the earlier this year, so she nominated my names, to Dr. Vinod to share my experience in online seminar. So without her support, I think it's very difficult for me to get the opportunity to share the knowledge for the international audience. Yes, so finally, so although she passed away now, so I will try to follow her footsteps. And I think everyone that know her will do the same. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Now, I would request Dr. Vinod Damblekar designs, develops, conducts, facilitates, and researches through his 18 years farm, Mantis. He is an ISAGA member since 2004 and is a coordinator of this conference to share his memory with Dr. Songshri. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. For those of you who do not know Songshri well, here is a brief introduction. Songshri Saranasrapon PhD was an associate professor at the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Maidol University, Nakhon Pathom, Thailand. She was the director of Doctor of Philosophy program in Applied Linguistics leading to the PhD and chief editor of the Liberal Arts Journal. For us outside Thailand, she was a co-founder of ISAGA. For those inside Thailand, I think she was the creator of many aficionados and experts in Thai film, games and simulations and researchers. I first met Songshri at Thai Film's second annual conference, Trang, Thailand, in 2010. Trang was a fine example of what a memorable conference could be. It had attracted many paper presentations and hundreds of participants, including school and college students from many universities. This had created a memorable experience of learning and fun. The boat ride to the nearby islands had the spirit of Treasure Island and Pirates. Exhilarating experience. Later, every Thai-Sim conference used a similar blend of research, learning, and social gathering. Songshri was the prime engine behind Thai-Sim, its conferences, and its commitment to the cause of simulations and games. Together with Dr. Urairat Yampriti, who heads Kanpur University, they produced top quality conferences year after year from the very first conference in 2009 till 2018. They also organized ISAGA's only summer school in Thailand in 2015 in Kanpur University and the 49th annual conference of ISAGA at Maidol University in 2018. I will remember her for many reasons. She was the public face of Thai-Sim outside Thailand. Thai-Sim produced conferences that were well attended and attracted huge audiences. She organized all of them. She and I jointly developed and conducted 2 games at 3 Thai-Sim conferences and 1 ISAGA conferences. 3 of them were keynotes. She was a generous host all the time and took care of her foreign visitors meticulously. I was with her at the Bangkok airport on several occasions to receive her conference visitors. She could have delegated this menial task to others, but did not. Songshri championed the advocacy of simulations and games in Thailand for several years. Her work in English language research is much less known. During all these years, I saw huge reserves of persistence and courage in her, especially during her illness. She made friends due to her open honesty. She had followers because she was different. She cannot be easily forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for sharing your beautiful memories with Dr. Songshri. So with this beautiful memory, we end this session. Dr. Songshri will be forever in our thoughts. Thank you. Now it's a time for 5-minute comfort break. Please join the next session with the same link at 11:30 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Raksha ma'am, please start the session.
Yes, sir. Sure. Good morning, honorable dignitaries, eminent guests from different countries, respected directors, HOD, HOI, professors, faculty members, and dear students. On behalf of SBBB fraternity, I, Dr. Raksha Chauhan, welcomes you all on the occasion of ISAGA 2021 52nd International Conference on Gaming, Simulation and Innovations, Challenges and Opportunities in Technical Session 1, Academic Track. It's my indeed pleasure and honor to welcome Session Chair Dr. Santosh Dhar, Dean, Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research, SBBB, Indore. Dr. Santosh Dhar is Dean, Faculty of Doctoral Study and Research at Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. She has been engaged in teaching, research, corporate training, and consultancy for the last 42 years. She has widely published her work and has 368 publications to her credit, and many research scholars have been awarded PhD degree under her supervision. She has designed and conducted management development programs for the executives of several business houses. She has been on the panel of reviewers of the Oxford University Press and Tata MC Grahill. She has presented papers in several national and international conferences, seminars, and had the opportunity to visit several countries in connection with various professional assignments. Dr. Dhar was conferred National Fellowship for her contributions to HR by the Indian Society for Training and Development in 2006-07. She has also been chairperson of ISTD Indore and Jaipur chapter and was on the editorial board of Indian Journal of Training and Development. Dr. Dhar had coordinated the implementation of a project on the empowerment of women through enterprise in North India 2000-2002, which was funded by Canadian International Development Agency. She has twice been chairperson of ISTD Jaipur and Indore chapter and chairperson of Best Paper Award of ISTD New Delhi. A warm welcome to you, madam. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Welcome all the participants and the presenters in the first technical session of 52nd Annual Conference of International Simulation and Gaming Association on Gaming, Simulation and Innovation, Challenges and Opportunities. Simulation and gaming refers to a series of instructional designs that can be used with board games, computer-assisted board games, or fully computerized environments. The underlying purpose of simulation and gaming is to shed light on the underlying mechanisms that control the behavior of a system. More practically, simulation can be used to predict the future behavior of a system and determine what you can do to influence the future behavior. The use of games and simulations in higher education can improve students' cognitive and behavioral skills. Players work collaboratively to solve real-world situations and problems, thus ameliorating authentic and collaborative learning. Today, we have the presenters who have explored further in this area and would be sharing their research work with all of us. The allotted time to each presenter is 8 minutes, and 2 minutes are reserved for question and answers after every presentation. May I request now Dr. Raksha to call the paper presenters one by one.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now moving ahead with the kind permission of our session chair, our first paper presenter ID is 117 on the topic Zooming in on the game experience of facilitated tabletop games in an online environment by Herman Arne Hedroth.
Good morning all, and thank you for this opportunity. I will share my screen. So thank you. And indeed, we want to publish an article about the game experience of facilitation of tabletop games in an online environment. You can see here the content, but I will dive right into the research problem, because facilitated tabletop games can be a useful tool for analyzing and designing complex systems. And these are typically physical games and typically played in a physical environment with players around the table. But then the coronavirus pandemic happened. And we have all experienced limited possibilities to play physical games due to measures like social distancing. Luckily, digital tools such as Teams or Zoom or Skype can enable a mediated environment for players to play a facilitated tabletop game. But that brings a knowledge gap, because there is no clear answer on how playing a facilitated tabletop game in a mediated environment changes the game experience. So that brings us to the research question: how does playing a facilitated tabletop game in a mediated environment affect the player's game experience when compared to playing face-to-face? First, we did a literature review to understand what could be the effects of playing in a mediated environment. And first of all, it could affect the ability of players to interact and recognize emotions. Second, it could also limit a game facilitation, and a limited game facilitation could jeopardize the outcome of the game. Third, tiredness, or also called Zoom fatigue, and loss of concentrations could occur, and that could also affect the game experience. And the last thing we found is that it is possible to have a sense of presence in a mediated environment similar to a physical environment. Our research approach was a mixed methods research. So that means we used both quantitative and qualitative data. We measured the player experience with the game experience questionnaire by ISAGA, and you can see here all the dimensions. I won't go through all of them, but I want to point out the social presence module that measures actually the sense of presence, as I talked to you before. And you can also see tiredness, and that could measure that Zoom fatigue, what I talked about before. And we measured qualitative data by observation reports of the game sessions focused on the gameplay, debriefing, and quality of the game. Our experimental setup, we used a Q Kitchen as a game, and it is a game that aims to create awareness about the invisible symptoms of Parkinson's disease in the social environment of people with Parkinson's disease. And our participant groups were 1 person with Parkinson's disease and 3 or 4 players from a social environment. And because of COVID, of course, the physical environment was only possible when all the players were from 1 household, and the mediated environment was possible in all other cases. Some slight adaptations have been made to the game, and for the rest it was a simple game setup with participants at home behind the laptop. The playing table was filmed with the phone, on a simple construction of kitchen stairs, some books, a bookshelf, some rope and some tape, and players gave the facilitator instructions on how to move the cards. And I can show you some pictures on how that looked like. You can see me there. There's a kitchen table, very, very easy. So this is actually what the players saw. They saw each other, and they saw the playing table. And it was an open card game, so that was very useful for this. The general results was that we had 11 playing sessions, 3 in a physical and 8 in a mediated environment, and 49 participants. And 13 questionnaires have completed in a physical environment and 31 in a mediated environment. The most interesting result, or one of the most interesting results, quantitative results, is that there's no significant difference found in the player experience variables between a physical environment versus a mediated environment. And I want to show you one, and these are actually the variables measuring sense of presence. And you can see indeed that although there is some range, those are quite the same. Except tiredness. What we did found is a big difference in tiredness in a mediated environment versus a physical environment. I quickly go to the qualitative results. What we saw in physical sessions was that there were many social interactions between players and also many group discussions where people could interrupt each other. And also interesting was to see that people were able to tune out or wander off with their minds when it was not their turn. They could take a little break, let's say. The mediated sessions, there was a higher chance of issues with connection, audibility, and visibility, and that affected the flow of the game. And also, especially in those sessions with technical difficulties, it was clearly shown that there were symptoms of fatigue among the players. Another observation was that a debriefing in a mediated session is very calm and structured. And another one, and I will come back to that later, is that in some cases, two people were behind the same screen or in the same room. So what I want to discuss is that results are partially consistent with what we found in literature. There is a sense of presence also in a mediated environment, and we did see a confirmation of Zoom fatigue. However, the difference between a physical and a mediated environment is not a day and night contrast. It is highly dependent on the quality of the individual session. The facilitation is maybe not unequivocally better or worse in either a physical and a mediated session. And what I just said about two people in the same room behind the screen, mediated sessions are sometimes not fully mediated. What we wanted to conclude is that a mediated environment causes significantly more tiredness than a physical environment. However, we should note that not all mediated sessions have these issues, this was especially the case in sessions with video or audio problems. The second one is a mediated environment does not affect other dimensions of player experience, not even the sense of presence. And the third one is that the mediated environment can cause a more calm and structured session, especially the debriefing. Thank you so much.
Now, if we have any questions.
Yeah, madam, may I ask a question?
Yes,
yeah.
Please carry on.
Yeah, you have shared the methodology, but how did you measure the mediation effect?
How did we measure the mediation effect?
Yeah.
What do you mean with that? Sorry?
That means, have you used any instrument for measuring this mediation effect?
Wait a minute. I don't have it in my presentation. You mean among the different variables, right?
Yeah, you have shared the experiment, but the effect, the mediation.
Well, what we found is that the tiredness construct was very reliable. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that means one is the direct effect, that how the game is played, and you can measure the direct effect. But you are mentioning here the mediation effect. So mediation, so you have used certain parameters for the mediation, and how you measured that mediation effect. That is my question.
I don't think that was what we found, what we focused our attention on. We did find a highly reliable construct, that the tiredness construct was very reliable with an alpha of, let me check it real quick, 0.83 or 0.84, but I don't know anything about the mediation effect, sorry.
Oh, no, actually you mentioned it. Okay, thank you, please.
Okay, there's one question. Were you a facilitator more tired in mediated sessions than in physical ones?
Absolutely. So actually that was a observation for myself, because many times I was the facilitator. Yeah, it is very more tiresome, especially the sessions where there were difficulties with audio and video connections. So yes, indeed.
There's another question. Do you think that a game with more components than cards could have different results?
Very good question. one of the things we choose this game, and this game was good to measure this, was that it was an open card game, and there were no physical elements like a dice or something that you have to pass over, or money that literally exchanged hands. So yes, it is for one game or another game could be very different, and you have to take that into consideration if you want to play a game in a mediated environment or not.
Okay, thank you. With this, Dr. Raksha, thank you so much. Dr. Raksha, now you can call another presenter.
Yes, ma'am. Our next paper presenter is with ID 120 on the topic Towards Virtual Reality Gaming for Children with ADHD in Formal Education by Meike Belter.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all see my screen now. I will start sharing it with you. All right. So I'm here today to present a paper that Dr. Heide Lukas and I have written on the topic Virtual Reality Gaming for Children with ADHD in Formal Education. Okay, first of all, for us, it was very important to understand that we work in applied immersive gaming, and that means a lot of different fields are involved. It is a really multidisciplinary research. This is why we have been exploring fields from sociology, game design, XR design, psychology, and also educational science. Because especially when you are designing games for education, it is very important to keep the educational context in mind, since this is the context you're designing for eventually. So what I want you to remember is that it is very interdisciplinary, and we had to research in very different fields. Before starting and explaining a bit more about the research itself, I would like to catch you up on what ADHD actually is, so you can follow along better with what I'm saying. Hyperactivity, inattention, and executive functioning demonstrate the three major characteristics of ADHD. Not all children or young adults struggle with them equally bad. Some children only show hyperactivity, some only inattention, or maybe even just executive functioning. That a lot of times comes with impulsivity and cognitive flexibility issues, such as issues of motor control. We can all imagine how that, of course, affects learning negatively, especially in a formal educational environment with traditional learning methods. That is why it is very important to us to create new ways of learning through the technology that is available to us nowadays. All right, how did we do that? So we wanted to create an immersive VR game for children with ADHD in schools. We are still in the process of doing so. Basically, we've been exploring 4 different research areas. First of all, of course, immersive virtual reality gaming, and why I think immersive VR is so important, I will explain to you in a bit. So we have been exploring the best ways of getting around in the game attributes that we need, which game engine to use, and the game design. And then, of course, we dove deeper into learning theory. So what kind of learning principles or activities or theories can actually be matched with our approach of immersive VR gaming? Then we look deeper into ADHD, the characteristics of it, behavioral science and cognitive science aspects. How do children actually behave in an environment, especially in a school environment, which again links me to the next thing that we looked at, which is the educational environment itself. We ask ourselves, what kind of educational requirements does this game need to fulfill if we actually really want to use it in a school setting later on? So how do we make this? We create game elements, and these game elements for games that can be used for children with ADHD have to be created on knowledge from all 4 fields, which is majorly important. And this is also what we looked at in our publication. So, yeah. All right. In the end, we came up with a table that nicely matches ADHD characteristics and VR game elements, because not all ADHD characteristics are translatable into immersive virtual reality, and vice versa. Not all kinds of virtual reality environments are suitable for children with ADHD. I would just like to take the opportunity to go through a few of them. This is just a condensed version of a much longer table, but I'm afraid we do not have the time to go through all of this today. All right. Attentional and effort-related deficits. This is by far the major difficulty children with ADHD struggle with. How can we define that? It basically means difficulties to complete 2 tasks at once. So for example, if you have to divide the attention in a classroom setting, Imagine you have to write down the name on a paper that has been given to you by the teacher, while you also have to listen to the teacher talking about something else. This is very difficult, and therefore we need to accommodate children with ADHD on this better. So our VR game that we would design needs to place important objects of interest near the ground. Why would we do that? We would do this because that puts the focus of what is important in the field, in the perfect point of field of view for the viewer. What else is important is to make important visual features easily identifiable. A much loaded and overcrowded scene is not really suitable for children with ADHD. So we really have to make sure that important features, for example, explanations or whatever we want to convey, is easily identifiable. All right. Another thing that children with ADHD and young adults struggle with is self-regulation and arousal modulation, of course. What does that mean? It means affected subjects are unable to self-regulate, for example, emotions. So think here anger outbursts or all kinds of other things along those lines. That means our VR environment has to also somehow accommodate for that. That means we should not impose any time limits, which is very controversial in game design in that sense, because we all know that imposing time limits can be very stimulating and engaging for the user, but for children with ADHD, such an environment is not suitable. That means we cannot impose any time limits to really try to eliminate that level of arousal that comes from having the stress being under time pressure. All right, that leads me to my next point. We must design it in a way to avoid overstimuli. And that's also very self-explanatory. I would like to go to a few more points. We have also inhibition. So for some children, working memory is also very difficult. That means these children have a difficulty with holding information temporarily in their brain. All right, so what does it mean for our VR game? We have to present only a few information at a time. We have to also allow for extended practice to give children the time. And we have to definitely balance the challenges and the defined goals to not make it overly complicated for the children. The last thing I would like to go into a bit more detail is inhibition. So for example, internalization of speech. So that means children struggle with internalizing speech that turns and guides behavior and action. So that means they cannot, for example, comprehend and process what a teacher has been telling them. Right, because of that, in our game, we have to incorporate clear verbal cues for supporting task switching situations and guiding actions to make this process for the children cognitively easier. We also have to include reminder questions. All right, so this was a little bit on how we are thinking of designing the game and how we came to the conclusion of the game elements, deriving them from multidisciplinary literature. And in the future, we will be looking at, since we're now in the process of actually designing the game, we will be more looking at usability and user experience for children in VR. As you can imagine, this is one of the prototype rooms that we're currently working on. You can imagine children with ADHD have also a lot of difficulties when it comes to motor functioning and just being in the moment. This is why we have to make sure that children feel very safe. We have to ensure very good user comfort for those children. We have to think about the content size here again, from a usability and UX point of view, to not overload the children. So you can see here in the pictures that the scene is rather empty, which is much on purpose. So you can also see that the buttons are very clear and the interactable objects. This is a math game where children have to put together an equation and in the end come to the right target number. But you can see this is all designed according to the user preferences that have been identified in our literature review. You can also see that we have different content zones. As in VR, you of course are immersed in the scene, and we want to place the objects as comfortable as possible in the right field of view for the children, so they do not have to turn their heads all the time from left to right too much, so we avoid any physical discomfort in this sense. And we're very excited to continue this research and further publish on that as well. That was my presentation. Please feel free to ask any questions, or you're also always welcome to contact me through my email address, which you can see right here. Thank you very much for having me.
Now there's a question, which is, what are the learning objectives? Has the effectiveness of the games been measured?
Sorry, could you please repeat that?
What are the learning objectives? Has the effectiveness of the games been measured?
This game, as of yet, still has to be measured. So at the moment, we're currently working on our first user study. And this game eventually will be a math game. So we're aiming at improving math skills, because these are essentially the skills children with ADHD mostly struggle with, because it is hard for them to keep the working memory throughout and the attention throughout performing math.
I cannot find any other question in the chat box. So thank you so much for your presentation. Nice presentation. Now, Dr. Raksha, you can call other candidate, other participant.
Yes, ma'am. Our third paper presentation is on the topic risk management can actually be fun using the serious cards for biosafety games to stimulate proper discussions about biosafety by Maria Frizzi.
Yeah, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Let me quickly share my screen. Does it work? Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see.
Amazing. Okay, cool. Yeah, welcome to my presentation, in which I would like to inform you about the development and use of the series cards for biosafety game. This game has developed within a Dutch research project called Debrief, which aims to develop innovative tools for the biotechnology domain. And to identify the specific problem this game should address, we followed the IDEAS approach. And IDEAS in general consists of 4 steps. So in the first step, we conducted online workshops with researchers from different biotechnology projects to identify the major issues around biotechnology and safety. In the second step, we discussed these major issues with biotechnology experts, brainstormed some first game ideas, and conducted a Moscow analysis as the third step. And in general, a Moscow analysis can help you to prioritize game objectives and or ideas by putting them into one of 4 categories, namely must-haves, could-haves, should-haves, and won't-haves. And the results of this analysis, but also conducted workshops and interviews, included statements such as, for a researcher, publishing new innovative research is more importantly than safety, or I'm not always thinking about the risk, and I don't think all scientists do. I'm not always following it, so safety, because it depends on the workload, I guess. And this all has shown us that a training game for young biotechnology researchers is needed, with the aim to let them think more deeply about safety aspects in biotechnology. And in comparison to standard training methods, such for instance, a biannual refresher course, a game can create awareness of risk and measures related to different biotechnology scenarios by actively discussing them and not only listening to a person who communicates very abstract input in a passive way. And it might help to prevent desensitization. So as said, the aim of this game is to let researchers in biotechnology think more deeply about biosafety aspects. Therefore, the game should be played with both junior and more senior experienced researchers and or biosafety officers to enhance their learning potential. The game is flexible in terms of playtime, because it's possible to play as many rounds as you want. It's also easy to adjust the game for different scenarios because it follows a modular approach. As you can, as you can see on the picture right here, it's a physical round-based. It's a physical card game that can be played over different rounds and playable with up to 8 players. The facilitator hosts the game and starts it by choosing a scenario and introducing it to the researchers. And after this, every player will get 5 risk cards, from which they must choose one card that represents the most appropriate or interesting risk for that introduced scenario. The players also need to think about a good argumentation presented as a short pitch why they have chosen this card. And even if a player has chosen a card that is less suitable for the situation or contains some kind of unrealistic elements, it's possible to convince the other players by appropriate argumentations and to discuss in exchange with the more senior experienced researchers or scientists in general, to what extent realistic elements are contained. And based on the chosen risk cards, a voting takes place, meaning that every player can vote for a risk card that represents the most appropriate risk for the chosen scenario in their opinion. And based on the scoring, the risk card with the most points will be the starting point for the next phase, namely the choose for an appropriate measure card. So every player will then get 5 measure cards from which they must choose one card that represents the best measure for the previously chosen risk. And after this, a second voting round with regard of the best measure card takes place. A new round can be played after that, meaning that the facilitator can pick a new scenario either randomly or from a predefined sequence of scenarios. Well, to test the efficiency of the Cards for Biosafety game as a learning or kind of educational tool, we conducted 2 online workshops with 5 participants in the first and 7 participants in the second workshop. First, we had an interactive introductory round. Second, we introduced the general aim of the session as well as the teacher project. Third, we explained the main functions of the gaming platform we used, and the participants also had the chance, of course, to get to know this platform by practicing certain in-game actions. Fourth, we shared the link to the pre-game questionnaires with the participants. And fifth, and I think the most important part of such a procedure sequence, we explained the game rules by letting players play the first round of Cards for Biosafety, and after this, the participants played 3 rounds per workshop. And after this, we shared the link to the post-game questionnaire with the participants, and this was followed by a debriefing. Well, to summarize the results very quickly, all participants liked the game very much, and all of them could imagine to use the Cards for Biosafety game in an educative setting. We were able to achieve our intended learning goal and recognized that the attendance of a senior researcher who explains certain aspects to the junior researchers, shares his or her experiences, and communicates interesting anecdotes is really important, and this brings the game to the next level. This game is based on the learning through sharing principle, meaning that players learn from each other, especially through the interplay between junior and more senior experienced players. The game itself should be seen as a starting point for further anecdote sharing and discussions on biosafety aspects. And due to the huge variety of different risk and measure cards, around about 350 different cards, it's not that easy to identify and choose the right risk and measure card during play. The player often have to pick the least non-fitting card and need to find good arguments for their choice. In many cases, the player will choose funny cards but might defend their choice very interestingly, or might cause other players to explain that their card is actually realistic and relevant. In this way, fun, that's also why we have chosen the title, risk management is actually fun, or can actually be fun, leads to learning in a very effective way. This out of the lab thinking is what we want to support with this game, and adding serious discussions as part of the debriefing closes then the bridge between funny moments and the intended learning goal or objective. So we think it would be super nice to do more research on the role of serious fun in this and other application domains. Well, if you want to learn more about the results, feel free to check out our paper. Otherwise, I would thank you very much for your attention. If you have questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know. And also do not forget to join our 2-day workshop at 1:30 p.m. IST, where we have the chance to play the online version of the Cards for Biosafety game. And due to the fact that we only have 8 places available, first come, first serve.
There's a question. Is it possible to play the game in teams?
Yeah, well, you can actually, yes. So far, the idea is that we play the game with a maximum of 8 players, and we have one person playing one player, but it could be also possible to play it with, for instance, with 2 or 3 people per kind of player role, which we will actually do at the end of this week in one of our student courses due to the number of attendees.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Over to Raksha.
Yes, ma'am. Our next paper presentation is on the topic Designing Business Game by Student-Teacher Collaboration by Ryoju Hamada.
Hi. Hello, my name is Dr. Ryoju Hamada, working as a JASAG academic chair, and also I was one of the organizer of ISAGA 2018 with Dr. Sonseri 3 years ago. Anyway, let's start today's story. Let me share my screen. Student power to accelerate your simulation and gaming. Designing your simulation game with student power. I and my research colleague, Dr. Kaneko's connection is over 20 years. We always work together, and we got the award in 2014 conference in ISAGA, and also in 2014 in JASAG also. They are very young compared with current situation, but it's not an important issue. Today, I'd like to introduce. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry, I missed how to share the screen. Just a moment, please. これで。スライドショーになっている。そして、これで。あ、いや、こっちに出てるんですよ。画面、
I think, can we move on to next presenter and then come back?
Yeah, okay. I can do it. Can you see on my screen?
Yeah, we can see right now. Yes.
Okay. Sorry for being late.
It's all right. You please carry on.
Okay. How to teach your idea? When we consider about this story, there are many ways. For example, blackboard and chalk lecture, book, field trip, homework, and so on. If you think there is another way, is better. Gaming is just one method, so that you don't have to hesitate on using games. If you have an idea better than game, you should do it. But if you introduce your game, you can save your time and you can make attractive lecture. However, you have to remember the developer is always alone and sometimes isolated by the, sometimes be isolated in your career, saying like this, gaming, that is a kind of truly games in literary meanings and so on. But however, you should remember ISAGA community will help you. ISAGA community will help you and we can consult together, we can exchange the information together. However, we have no idea to include students to our game development. That is my proposal. After the gaming session, I have many experiences that students are eager to join to attend our works to develop the game. For example, the reason is very simple. It was fun. I want to play again. I want to make my game, my own game like this. Why you don't consider about this kind of motivation? That is quite useful. Because students know the rule. Students are strongly interested to improve the game. And students are young and they are free from unnecessary prejudice or previous ideas. So they have a soft minds, soft brains, very suitable for the new game developers. Why do you don't think so? To share the emotion with students and these students, teacher has a knowledge, discipline, and logic. And meanwhile, if your game is fun, you can attach the excitement, ambience, joy, motivation, and loyalty to the game, and it will make a strongest team. It will make a strongest team. Sorry, how many minutes do I have left?
We had total 8 minutes only. So you please make it faster a little bit.
Okay. I'm very sorry. Overview of our outcomes. Our project starts at 2003 and continues around 18 years. We have already hosted 100 workshops for 2,000 participants, 9 hours, 19 games, 160 game developers, and most of them are students. 3 companies has been developed and 1 master degree student has graduated. Let me show you the students questionnaire. Why you join the base? Base is our brand name. Within 23 answers, you can see 20 students answered they are interested in business game. Secondly, the characteristics of teacher is also fundamental factor. For example, in my case, Ryoju Hamada, this person attracts 13 students. And people coming gather around the game. That is also a fundamental factor, 8.35%, and so on. After they graduate, when they graduate, I ask the same question. Knowledge and friends are precious asset that remained to us, to them, and business sense and management skill, sales, and sometimes conflicts, and so on. They learn many things. So that we can, this PowerPoint says, after you graduate game development, what is your idea? Do you like base project? 87% students answered strongly yes or yes. And the experience during the game development project, about 83% students considers it works well, strongly or yes. And some students got amazing development during 3 to 6 months. We call this story as awakening. You see, this is my students, and this is David Crockwell sensei. He is working as a translator in Taisim 2017, maybe. That is my story. You could invite your students to your game development, and you can save your time, and you can make a great game. That is my message. Lastly, I was a general secretary of ISAGA Summer School 2021. I'm sorry to Maria because our time conflicts together. But however, from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., we are going to have a ISAGA Summer School 2021 report and awarding session with my research colleague, Dr. Tomomi Kaneko. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any question for Dr. Hamada? So, thank you, Dr. Hamada. Now we move on to the next presenter.
Yes, ma'am. Our next paper presentation is on the topic Gamifying Serious Games, Modding Modern Board Games to Teach Game Potential by Michael da Silva Sousa.
Hello, good morning all. My name is Michael Sousa. I came from Portugal, University of Coimbra, and I'm going to share my screen. You can all see it, I guess. Hello, I'm going to share my work. This work is about how we can deliver an 8-hour workshop about the use of modern board games as serious games and introducing gamification. This was done in a mini MBA course. So this was to test if we can use existing modern board games as simple tools to, in a one-day session, to explain to the students the potential of gaming and also the gamification approaches. So what was the plan here? I modified modern board games to be serious games, and I had some gamification approach at the end and during the games. We played the games with the students, and after each game we've done a debriefing of the games. The gamification was obtained through a scoring system that I will explain, and then it was a final debriefing moment. There was a debriefing after each game, but a final debriefing moment at the end of the session when we will discuss the gamification approach. So why did I pick modern board games? There's a lot of variety right now, a lot of new designs. They are engaging activities, even, and we can say they are a post-digital trend right now. They can be played fast. We can address different and specific skills in each game, and they are easy to grasp by most users, even when they don't have digital skills. They are easy to modify, even in real time. There's a lot of experience in this. I had the experiencing of modifying the games in real time during the playing experiences. And they can foster the collaboration and collective learning among users, because most of the time, even when we don't follow the exact rules, the participants teach each other how to play the game. I think this is very important. And these games have higher player agency that helps analyze the game mechanics, which is important when we analyze the games, to try to learn from them to develop our own approaches. So selecting the games. I've considered the engagement model from Nelson Zagallo, Professor Nelson Zagallo, the 3 player profiles typologies, and related them to the skills which are what engages the students to play a game. So this is 3 typified roles. These roles are related to the big 5 personality traits, and define three skills: problem solving, communication, creativity, communication and collaboration, and general skills. And then I've proposed this sequence where for organizing the workshop, the first step was some questionnaires before the session, then the ice breaking and presentation using games also, then expositive lecture about what is a serious game and what is gamification, and then the process of selecting and playing the games with the questionnaires after each game and a little debriefing after each game. Then if we had available time, we played another game, and then a final session debriefing, and then the final questionnaires about the session. This is an example of some of the played games and the relations with the weighting system to the skills, the previous skills that I've reported. This is the games played in the morning and in the afternoon. And then this is the system that I follow to pick the games. So the games were picked among gamers. So I've discussed with other gamers what kinds of games we could use, and discussed what kind of skills they could achieve. So this was an interactive process until I defined the list of the games. These are the students playing the games. This is a formal session of this business school where they were attending a MBA. And this is the results of the weighting system to define the gamification, where I defined the leaderboards and the scoring system for the badges, and then for the prizes. This is the dimensions that I spoke and measured during the several games. There's here before and after the session, and the variation that occurred along the games. So each game had some specific impacts in these perceptions, in these feelings about the reality to the skills that we want students to train. At the end of the work session, we found that all the perceptions were positive. This is a Likert scale from 1 to 7, so you can see that the values are really high. So the students consider that the games were useful for them to learn all these skills. These another perceptions about the fun of the games, it's also high, the seriousness of the application, and also this question, this provocative question, if analog games can be better than digital experiences, and this also scored high. The students did not found the games to be very complex, and they acknowledge the relations from the games from serious purpose. I should highlight that these were entertaining games that were modified and through the debriefing addressed and became serious games, because we related what the players did in the game to the objectives of playing the games and relating them to the skills. So the gamification approach was giving points, showing a leaderboard related to the skills, and each skills determined a badge, and each badge at the end win a scratch card that was the prize. And this is the perceptions of the participants about this gamification approach. They didn't like the part of the competition and the badges, but they enjoyed, for example, the prizes and the system of the points. The final conclusions: players enjoy these games. They would like to play them again. This is one of the ways to measure it. No player totally matched the typified player profiles. That 3 profiles that are shown at the beginning. Each player had a part of each, not fully matched. Players consider that the selected games achieved their serious purpose. So by playing the games, they felt that they were training and learning the skills. The debriefing stage was very important. The players also recognized that just it was the debriefing that make them aware of many of the skills that they trained during the games. The perception of the potential of using games for serious purpose increased. So before and after the games, participants considered that the games had a higher impact than previously. The weights and the evaluation system could be improved. For example, adjusting the time of each game took to play. For example, a 10-minute game need to be less than a 20-minute game for evaluation scoring. Players understood the effects of gamification and developed a critical solution to the problems, because they, in our case, one player win 3 of the 4 prizes. And at the time, we changed the scoring system, and the second best player win the prize if the one player had already had a prize, something like that. So this allowed us to do a critical approach and to solve it, and they understood at least one problem that gamification solutions can have. And workshop proved that modifying and playing modern board games can train skills and deliver serious games and address gamification issues. Thank you for your attention, and for any question or don't hesitate in contacting me. Thank you.
There is a question. There is some research that using badges does not encourage either play or learning. What was the experience of your students?
Yes, they did not like it a lot. This was the trait or dimension of the most common mechanisms of gamification: the points, badges, and the leaderboards. The badges was the thing that they disliked the most. They like the points, but at the end they considered that playing the games were enough, which is interesting to highlight.
Thank you, Michael. Now over to Raksha.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next paper presentation is on the topic effect of learning style on a student's learning experience of marketing management game by Dr. Rajesh Shukla and Dr. Monica Sen.
Thank you, Raksha ma'am. Now I'm sharing my screen. Good afternoon, everyone. The title of our research is The Effect of Learning Style on Students' Learning Experience of Marketing Management Game by Dr. Rajesh Shukla and myself. Learning style is the way an individual processes and retains new information and skills. Previous studies have shown that no single approach provides the best learning the students, as every individual shows different approaches in the learning process. It may be because of different background, levels of motivation, demographics, and their characteristics. The learning style shows the improvement by adding the instructional games in the curriculum, and the teaching fraternity has shown the interest in using these games as a tool for imparting knowledge. In multidisciplinary management programs, where the educators must link theory into practice, they must take the help of in-class and out-of-class activities to make the learning more effective. Lee and Faulkner found that there is a correlation seen between the learning styles and the socio-economic level of the sample. Also, they try to understand how a student's environment influences the way of learning. Kolbe's learning style inventory. Kolbe's learning style inventory is an instrument designed to examine individual preference for learning. Kolbe has identified 4-stage learning modes as: from their concrete experience, people generate reflections and observations which lead to the formation of abstract concepts, rules, and principles, which in turn lead to active experimentation for new experiences. This learning cycle is continuously recurring and is directed by individual needs and goals. Rationale of the study: marketing is the area where the students must go in the field to understand the concepts practically. To provide real-time exposure to the marketing students, the marketing game was planned for experiential learning. Further, the effect of learning styles of the students was analyzed to know the effectiveness of management games. Objectives of the study: we have framed 3 objectives: to study the impact of learning style on the learning experience of marketing management game, to study the effect of gender on the learning experience of the marketing management game, and last, to study the interactive effect of gender and learning style on the learning experience of marketing management game. We have framed the hypothesis on the basis of the objective. There is no significant effect of concrete experience on the learning experience of game. There is no significant effect of reflective observation on the experience of this game. There is no significant effect of abstract conceptualization on the learning experience of this marketing management game. There is no effect of active experimentation on the learning experience of the marketing management game. On the basis of second objective, we have framed the hypothesis: gender-wise, there is no significant difference in the learning experience of marketing management game. On the basis of third objective, we have framed another 4 null hypothesis. There is no interactive effect of gender and concrete experience on the learning experience of the marketing management game. There is no interactive effect of gender and reflective observation on this particular game. There is no interactive effect of gender and abstract conceptualization on the learning experience of this game. And there is no interactive effect of gender and active experimentation on the learning experience of this particular game. Method we have used for this is sampling procedure. Purposive sampling method was used for this study. Sample size, we have taken 120 postgraduate MBA students. They played this marketing game, were considered as a sampling unit for the study. We have collected the data from the Kolbe's Learning Style Inventory, KLSI 4.1, consisting of 12 items, which was used to assess the learning style. A self-developed 8-item scale was also used to measure the learning experience. 5-point Likert scale ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree was used for the data collection. We have used regression analysis, independent sample t-tests, and 2-way ANOVA for data analysis purpose. Now, description of the game. The game consists of 4 customer segments and maximum of 2 different product categories having a different features that can be offered to the market. And has taken for the study, the industry taken for the research is the chocolate industry, which needs to start its fresh operations in urban area. We have considered Tier 2 city for this particular research. Students, they have been appointed as a marketing manager for this firm, and they need to build a marketing mix to increase the profitability by 20%, assuming that break-even has achieved. Now, the team consists of 6 members having equal male and female members. Budget of 20 lakhs was allocated to each team. Each team need to decide the strategy for the first quarter, January to April. 2 varieties of the chocolate product need to be manufactured and sold at their own decided cost price. Now, each group need to frame a business model showing a price mix, promotion mix, and the distribution mix. The participants' task was each team need to decide the 4 customer segment. The data has been provided to each team related to the costing of the product. They need to allocate the budget on the different heads, research and development, promotion, pricing, and the distribution mix. After completing this particular exercise, the key learning areas are: the game covers the basic understanding of the topics such as product mix, market segmentation and targeting, distribution channel investments, promotional budget allocation, pricing, marketing research, competitors analysis, and overall profitability. These are the results. Cronbach Alpha for learning experience, concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active participation are shown here, which shows that our scale is reliable to conduct for further analysis. Model summary: the result shows the association between learning experiences and learning styles. The R value of 0.618 indicates a moderate degree of correlation. R square value is 0.38, which indicates that learning style contributes to only 38.2% variation in the learning experience. These are the correlation coefficient, which suggest that the regression model for the learning styles and the learning experience of the students towards the marketing game was found to be significant. Further, significant effect of concrete experience and abstract conceptualization were observed on the learning experience of the marketing management game. Our hypothesis,
Dr. Monica, can you come to the conclusions? Please?
Yes, ma'am. For the third, we have used 2-way ANOVA test to test the hypothesis.
You just come to conclusion. Okay. What have you concluded?
Yeah. This is the conclusion. The findings of this study suggest that significant effect of concrete experience and abstract conceptualization dimensions of the learning style on a learning experience of the marketing management game was observed. Gender-wise, significant difference was observed in the learning experience. And lastly, significant interactive effect of gender and reflective observation was seen on the learning experience of studied marketing management game. These are the few literatures references.
Any question? We have a fast question because we are running short of time. Or you can put it in the chat box and Dr. Monica can answer there. So we move on to the next presenter.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Our next topic for presentation is Natural Security Gaming in the Transition Towards Regenerative Economy, a Review by Vesak Yashodharan.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vaishak Yashodharan. I am going to present the work entitled Natural Security Gaming in the Transition Towards Regenerative Economy, collectively prepared by the People of Technology for Circular Economy and Natural Security Research Group, the Department of Chemical Engineering from the University of Santiago de Compostela, Spain. Presentation consists of introduction, objectives, methods, development, results, discussion, and conclusion. Natural security refers to all aspects of security relating to reliable, sufficient, affordable, and sustainable supply of natural resources and energy to meet the needs of the society by protecting the environment, human health, and living things. According to the proposal for 8th Environmental Program of European Union, long-term priority objective for 2020 states that citizens live well within the planetary boundary, regenerative economy, no waste is generated, no net emissions of greenhouse gases are produced, and economic growth is developed, decoupled from resources use, and environmental degradation and natural capital is restored and valued in ways that enhance resilience to climate change. As defined by Richard D. Duke, a gaming simulation is defined as a just-sold communication mode, which consists of game-specific language, appropriate communication technology, multi-block interaction pattern. It gives importance to heuristic understanding of complex reality. Gaming models basically differ mainly on interaction pattern. According to the book of Serious Games written by Clark in 1970, serious games are games which have an explicit and carefully thought educational purpose and are not intended primarily for amusement. Sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Three main pillars of sustainable development includes economic growth, environmental protection, and social equality. According to by UNESCO in 2010, they added a fourth dimension, which is known as regulation and governance, to the pillars. The objectives of the study are to carry out bibliometric analysis of the games related to natural security combined with energy security, renewable energy, carbon capture and storage, and waste. Present an overview of current scenario and future perspectives of gaming through analysis based on specific characteristics such as year, type of games, and field of application. The methodology consists of the following: literature search in Web of Science and Scopus database platform from 1950 to 2021, using keywords natural security, carbon capture and storage, renewable energy, waste, and energy security combined with game, simulation game, and serious game. Search includes all global articles. Articles relating game theory is not included in the scope of the review. After each search with keywords are screened based on manual reading of the abstract. Finally, a complete overview about current and future aspects of gaming related to natural security is presented. Assisting critical keywords, 43 articles were obtained. The sources of more than 50% of the articles were proceedings of international conferences. 17 articles were found in the field of renewable energy. Since 1993, 20 articles were found in the field related to waste, and most of them are simulation and serious games. 6 articles related to carbon capture and storage were obtained after literature search from 2013 to 2020. Results. Renewable energy gaming. Serious games and simulation games are most important types in renewable energy. Primary purpose of creating games in the field of renewable energy has been developed for education and understanding the processes related to renewables. Most of the articles have referred to the discussion of energy transition and have considerable renewable energy as a sustainable alternative. Waste gaming. More than 50% of the games are used in the field of academics. Most serious games use robots, board games, role play, three-dimensional virtual environment, and tangible user interface. Mostly applied in the field of academics to educate school children, university graduates, and workers in industries as shown in figure 4. Games creates awareness about waste and its importance of being prevented, recycled, and reduced effectively. Figures 5, 6, and 7 shows various games in the field of waste. These are some of the games related to serious and simulation games. Carbon capture, energy security, and natural security gaming. Articles related to carbon capture and storage include different areas of application, which are environment, policy, economics, education, public, and technique. There are several games related to carbon capture and storage, especially for simulation games. Searching for games related to energy security using the keywords, it was found that a major share the results was related to game theory, which was out of the scope of the study, and there was no games related to energy security. A real interesting result was that related to natural security. The search results did not give any results. Discussion. This study has shown an overview of the progress of games related to natural security associated with the building blocks such as renewable energy, carbon capture, storage, energy security, and waste. Those games found out are applied for education. Games related to renewable energy have dealt more with general issues of energy supply, increased awareness of renewable energy, energy systems, and complex energy system functions. At university level, while conducting a simulation game on sustainability of plastic waste, improvements were seen in knowledge acquisition and behavioral changes of students. Use of simulation games in training workers to give a better understanding of methods for analyzing waste in the assembly process showed an improvement. Games related to carbon capture and storage have a larger scope of application and are specially used in policymaking and economics when compared with other fields. There are no games related to national security and energy security found in the search outcomes. This shows that there's a huge scope of development of games related to that. Conclusion, national security is a novel idea that has a major role in achieving sustainable development goals. Simulation game is widely used in topics such as waste management, renewable energy, carbon capture and storage, and also several research areas have been involved, but there is a huge gap in developing national security and energy security gaming. Developing games related to this topic is very essential to enhance the knowledge of a heuristic understanding of complex reality for promising a sustainable future for the future generation. Thank you.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Vaishak. Now, anybody who has a question for Vaishak, please put it in the chat box so that he can answer you directly. Now we have the last presenter, Mr.
Yes,
Daniel. Yes.
The topic for presentation is the co-design of educational video games by Daniel Kleffman.
Yes, hello. I hope you can all hear me well and see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Very well. Welcome. I'll try to be brief, and I hope you're all doing well today. I thank the organizers for the invitation to this conference. My name is Daniel Kleffman, and today I'll be talking about my research on the co-design of educational video games for primary education. Collaboration to design educational tools, such as video games, is a complex and challenging task that can involve great and many people. In my search for frameworks and methodologies, I came up pretty empty-handed. Co-design is being done and researched, but frameworks and specific methodologies are not being produced. It is important to document and validate these practices to ensure that we're doing the best we can, especially when education video games are being applied in many areas and can have large social implications. And to validate our design practices, we need to know how this works. One of our interviewees highlights that for designers, it is important to understand the context and desired impact of an educational video game, especially if these are to be held accountable for their impact. And in order to do this, we need to know how the process works and who we need to involve in these collaborative efforts. The lack of specific frameworks leaves us with a gap, one that this research set out to begin to close. I had this one research defining question that asked, how are educational video games for primary education being co-designed? But I broke it down into 4 questions that would guide the design of this research. I sought out to identify the structure, the relevant stakeholders, the involvement methods, and their influence on the game's design. For this, I referred to industry examples and proceeded to interview 12 experts in the field from 11 different companies and 6 different countries. Through open questions on the definition of concepts and procedures, they provided a preliminary understanding of how co-design is being practiced by contemporary serious game companies. Co-design was the focus of our interviews, and prior studies on perceptions of co-design, such as those from authors listed below, had identified some resistance towards these practices, describing them as time-consuming. Related criticism specified how stakeholder input was more often than not irrelevant. In a general sense, co-design was seemingly inefficient, but theoretically of high value. To address this concern of efficiency, I designed an app that would complement our interviews. The idea was to invite experts to review how stakeholders had influenced their game's design, in search of commonalities, and ultimately limit their involvement by relevance. We used 15 game design elements defined by these authors to provide them options to choose from and identify with, and examined 10 specific education video games of diverse topics with their game designers. In the app, game designers had to sort these elements into a pyramidal hierarchy to illustrate how strongly they were being influenced by a specific stakeholder, allowing us to develop a ranking of game design elements per stakeholder. By assigning an arbitrary point system to the pyramid tiers, I was able to collect quantitative data that would inform said ranking. This is what those results looked like, some with very distinctive outliers, while others had more ambiguous numbers. During this exercise, I would simultaneously collect qualitative data, asking our interviewees to explain their reasoning. Contrasting quantitative and qualitative data became essential to understanding those less distinctive findings and numbers. So what did I discover with this research? Co-design in this context is a three-step process that requires specific types of stakeholders. Clients are usually the first contact with whom the scope of the project is defined. They mainly determine the technology for which the game will be designed, but also the learning objectives of the game, and thereby the pedagogy and skill mastery within the game as well. During this scoping process with the clients, they provide external stakeholders to collaborate with, such as experts. Content experts provide knowledge on the subject matter of a game, let's say astronomy, science, language, history, etc. But game designers had a hard time relating contents to game design elements, and the results there were very inconsistent. So the influence of content experts remains unclear and likely varies from subject to subject. Then we have the pedagogy experts. Unsurprisingly, they influence the pedagogy of the game on a theoretical level and were reported to influence the goals within the game as well. They relate to specific learning objectives. In a middle ground between the design and testing, we have the facilitators. These would often be parents, teachers, or practitioners of sort who would facilitate the game to children in a specific learning context. While pedagogy experts contributed a more theoretical perspective to learning, facilitators would be the experts in their practical application. And these were often more considered or more relevant to influence the pedagogy of the game due to their practical role. And they also influenced mastery of skill due to the learning context. They will also be a kind of user because they facilitate the game for an intended purpose. So they will also be involved in the testing of a game along with the end users, the children in this case, who were brought in as early as possible to mainly measure engagement. Game designers consistently reported how they often use aesthetics and mechanics to appeal to users and keep them engaged. This testing stage thereby often led back to the experts for an iterative process. And this is my preliminary framework. How to use it? The process of designing and developing an educational video game is not too different from other kinds of games, but it does require the involvement of these specific external stakeholders. Knowing who needs to be involved and when they need to be involved can streamline the process. By limiting the feedback of stakeholders to where they are relevant, we can be more intentional when involving them. For example, it may be unwise to allow clients to define specific, smaller mechanics within the game, or to allow pedagogy experts to influence the aesthetics. But these findings are only preliminary. They are a guide for game designers and further research. It seems to be the first attempt to put together some sort of framework for co-design in this context. So of course, there are still some gaps and more research to be done. This starts to outline what the process should look like and also shapes the research that I will be continuing from now on. Thank you for your time. I hope you found this presentation brief enough, interesting, and if you have any questions, my contact is on the screen.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much.
Now, may I request to our session chair, Dr. Santosh Dhar ma'am, for concluding remarks.
Thank you, Raksha. I would like to congratulate all the presenters who have very precisely shared their research work with all of us. But finally, what are the takeaways from the session? First takeaway was that tabletop games can be played in a mediated environment instead of a physical environment without significant loss of player experience. Therefore, the game facilitators need to explore this opportunity to increase their versatility. Virtual reality games can offer realistic yet simplified and safe experience in which children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder could experience everyday learning situations tailored to their unique learning needs. Cards for Biosafety is a successful game to achieve the intended learning goal. Fun is an important element in the game, which leads to learning in a very effective way. Impactful games can be created at a fantastic pace through student-teacher collaboration. This can harness and channelize students' energy to become great game designers, global players, and thorough business entrepreneurs. Modern board games can be successfully adapted to deliver a game-based experience to adult students, allowing them to learn about serious games and the gamification as a tools to learn skills. Gender and reflective observation impact learning experiences from marketing management games. There was a review paper where it was concluded that there is a need of exploring more games in drawing a better understanding of national security and its related fields for the citizens to build up a regenerative economy. Co-design stages involves four of the 5 types of stakeholders, and systematizing co-design processes for better designs and more efficient use of resources is the need. So co-design would improve systematic design with educational video games can be applied in many fields from healthcare to formal education. Thanks everybody once again for making the session interesting. Thank you everybody. Over to Raksha.
Thank you everyone. Gratitude is attitude. With this, I am privileged to propose vote of thanks in this technical session 1. I am extremely thankful to Honorable Vice Chancellor and Chairperson ISAGA 2021, Dr. Upinder Dhar sir. I also express my thanks to our session chair, Dr. Santosh Dhar madam, for spending her valuable time with us. I am also thankful to Coordinator ISAGA 2021, Dr. Jigyasu Dubey. I also express my gratitude to Dr. Anand Rajawat, Director SVIIT Indore. At last, I express my wholehearted thanks to all the eminent guests, directors, HOD, HOI, and professors for joining this technical session 1. I also express my profound thanks to all the paper presenters. Thanks to one and all. Now there is a break till 1:30 p.m. We will meet again for the workshop at 1:30. Have a great day ahead.
The workshop links are available on isaga2021.com. All of you can join the workshop from using that links available on isaga2021.com.
You have to mention that there are 2 parallel workshops.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there will be separate links. So you
yes,
have
sir. 2 separate links are available.
Okay, thank you. So we'll meet once again at 1:30.
Yes.